Hey everybody, how's everybody doing this morning? Here it's going pretty well. Let's see, it looks like. Alright, maybe like that. Um, so yeah, welcome to TekAdvisor Live, where I do my um, morning updates on different links available on the site and try to dig through the deals on offer and try to find which one are really worth your time. This is mostly my data gathering phase in the morning, so pretty chill stream. I'm just going through stuff and I'm here to basically answer whatever question you might have. So behind me you will see the which device I'm currently working on. That way you have a better idea of what I'm talking about, because every once in a while I've got a comment about the device on offer here. And yeah, basically got the specs for the device, what it means, how it compares to other, where you can buy it from and for how much, and which program will it run and how well. So yeah, it's pretty good summary of each and every device I currently have on site. I've got, let's see, nearly 500 devices and links, sorry. Nearly 500 links to update this morning, so let's get started. And yeah, the MacBook Pro is the first one this morning. I try to start Friday mornings focusing on stuff that's currently available from either Best Buy or Visions Electronics, because that's where their weekly sales usually start. So usually Friday is the day where I'll be spotting the most differences in price from those retailers. And yeah, I changed the way the order is handled on the stream a couple weeks back, so that I don't jump from device to device too much. So gives you a little bit more time to see what I'm doing and get a better idea of what's available or not. So Staples still has it, but online only, or at least in my region. The certified open box on this laptop is still not available from Best Buy. Too bad, because a lot of people were curious about this from what I see. But yeah, sadly, no dice on this one. And same thing here. The brand new version is nowhere to be found at Best Buy at this point. Could be back eventually. Got a $1 price drop on this gaming laptop. And it's available new from Best Buy online and in stores. Trident 3 has been fairly popular lately. And it's got a $201 price drop over at Visions Electronics. Especially interesting if you if you're looking to bring a gaming PC to your living room. It's a pretty compact device that shouldn't be too noisy, let's hope. It's also, let's say, if you like to go to LAN parties every once in a while, like um, child plays, for instance, stuff like that. Well, that is easier to carry than full-fledged tower PC, while being a little bit more, well, you're going to have a larger, more comfortable screen than, let's say, a laptop. And let's see, no change at Staples on this screen. Has been very popular lately, which I'm very happy about. 27-inch screen are really nice. I don't have one on my desk yet, but that's what the wife has. And yeah, that's pretty immersive. That gives you a lot of space for work, and a pretty immersive screen for gaming as well. And at the price of this Acer screen, it's not a bad deal. It's not necessarily what we call a gaming monitor, but that's more of a nice to have in my book than a requirement. So a slight price drop on this one on Amazon as well. Nothing too spectacular. So no change at Staples on this one. And let's see. That laptop, convertible laptop, is currently out of stock over on HP's own website. Same thing here. Then again, most price drops occur on Thursday over at Staples. So I did take note of several price drops yesterday from them. And yeah, the Fire HD 8, I actually have that tablet. It's been serving me pretty well to watch YouTube or Twitch even. Um, it's got Netflix and it's got access to a lot of apps too. Not as many as, let's say, a tablet which would have access to the Google App Store, but it's pretty good on that. They're currently advertising a $10 drop on their 7-inch variant. The 7-inch can be bought for only $50. That's a pretty attractive price. However, the 7-inch tablet is a lot, how would I say, less powerful than the 8-inch one, and the 8-inch one's already not powerful at all. So if you like to have better speakers and slightly better frame rates and that sort of stuff, the 8-inch at $100 definitely worth it. If you need something that's even, if your needs are even simpler than that, or maybe it's for a kid or something like that, then the 7-inch tablet at $50 might be worth looking into. Yeah, I just don't have any reliable data to which would allow me to tell you that uh how would I say that it would do even simple jobs well. Apparently it does. It plays low res movies and all of that, no problem. Even the 80-inch don't have a 1080p screen, so but yeah, speakers are not as good and a few things like that, so I'm a little bit hesitant going under the specs of the Fire HD 8, which is still available for $100 over at Amazon. And from Memory Express, which is probably one of my favorite retailers personally, um, we've got that Trident 3. So, as I said earlier, not a bad system to pick if you need something really compact, either to put in your media center or maybe even to just carry around in a backpack to whichever LAN party you go to. Definitely less portable than, for instance, a laptop. Yeah, sorry about that. Still absorbing my morning coffee over here. So yeah, a little bit less portable than a laptop, but sometimes you want desktop performances while you're on the go, and laptops are getting extremely close, but they're still a little bit behind, and just depends what your needs are. It's easier to do upgrades even in that little computer than in most laptop nowadays. The GPU is replaceable in Trident, at least in theory. It just might be a little tricky considering the size of the case. Not every graphics card is gonna fit in there, so might take a little bit of extra research, or maybe you would prefer to get that task handled by your local IT service provider. Like in my case, I would probably go to Memory Express for that sort of stuff because they're really good at it. Um, you could try your hand at Best Buy or Staples, although I'm not sure if they would do anything on devices they don't sell. Not 100% sure on that. And prices are stable on this particular tablet. Android tablets, which have definitely taken a beating in the recent years. I think that design is at least 4 years old at this point, and I'm a little bit surprised that the prices hasn't dropped further than this yet. It is somewhat equivalent to the Apple iPad, even though it's slightly behind, but not by much. You probably wouldn't feel that you compromise too much on that. Um, yeah, it's just that at least for the iPad, there's a few revisions. On the Android side of things, tablets have fallen off the wayside pretty significantly. Yeah, they're still going strong on phones, just not on tablets. Chrome OS might be a better fit for that sort of things from now on anyway. Especially since most of those are able to run Android apps nowadays. That's actually a feature I haven't tried because, to be honest, most of the time I prefer web apps to Android apps. Usually the mobile apps don't have the feature I want or need, so sorry about that. So yeah, I don't use those as much. It's barely capable of handling bare minimum maintenances on the service I have to keep an eye on. So I prefer having access to a real full-featured web browser in my case. But yeah, I really like my Chromebook thanks to that. Yeah, the Surface Studio Pro. Very expensive price of tech, but it looks really good. And it's definitely worth looking into for, let's say, a digital artist or maybe even designer working in the public space. Because that whole unit combines a pretty capable computer equipped with a screen which has Cintiq-like capabilities. So in the end, you end up paying roughly the same as you would for a Cintiq and a design PC. Except it's in a much more compact format and you don't have as many wires laying around and all that sort of stuff. The downside is that because it's all in one, repairs on a Surface Studio probably not going to be much of an option. So if you really, really need your investment to last, you're probably better off buying a separate tower and Cintiq monitor than going for one of those. But I must admit, they look pretty good. So let's see. There's a few import charges and stuff like that on this one. Nothing too significant. You would be able to get it to your place for just over $200 Canadian, probably. But I see that, yeah, that flight stick and throttle hasn't been visited for a little while, so I won't bother with the extra calculation over for eBay's fees. Slight price drop over at B&H, but that's mostly in virtue of, just dollar value fluctuating. Usually I like to consider B&H's offer for for my clientele simply because they actually make a pretty significant effort to cater to Canadians. So yeah, they're usually worth looking into. Although I do expect you probably have some kind of fee to pay for crossing, customs and all of that. So there's probably an import fee that you have to pay on delivery, but at least the delivery itself is free over $100 US over there. So for bigger items, sometimes it's worth ordering from there. Doing my update on Galaxy Note 8. It's available from quite a few places. You only see the 4 most attractive on screen right now. But yeah, that's one expensive phone. Competes in price with laptops, which, well, for some people it's worth it. A lot of us spend more time on their smartphone than they do on their computer, so it's not a misplaced investment. It's not the thing that necessarily have the biggest bang for the buck, but it's definitely um, a way to invest where you spend your time, however. I think I'm ready to consider that a valid deal here. I just had the shipping fee because it's not sold by Amazon itself, it's bought by a third-party seller. Yeah, just over 700 on this laptop. So, could be worth looking into. And let's see, another seller deal from Amazon on Microsoft Surface Book. Top offer has free shipping and it's from Mike's Computer Shop, so pretty reliable seller there. So definitely worth considering, and it's going to be the second lowest price on offer. We'll bring an extra option to buy the specific kind of in the mind to call a Surface Book a convertible laptop. It's pretty interesting design with an actual extra muscle stored in the keyboard. So the keyboard is more than just a keyboard on this one. It's the only downside is it's really expensive, but at least it comes with everything you need, unlike a Surface tablet, which has a pretty expensive keyboard that you have to pay to buy separately. And those things are not cheap. So every once in a while you see an interesting deal go on a Microsoft Surface tablet and it might look pretty attractive. You just have to keep in mind you have $200 to pay for the keyboard, and most people wouldn't think of the Surface tablet without the keyboard, so keep that in mind. Puts in pretty tight competition with laptop which actually have the keyboard built in. Not to mention convertible laptops that can play both roles. It's a little bit clumsy as a tablet when you have one of those laptop that can flip over itself into a tablet. It's a really bulky tablet at this point, a very Usually a pretty heavy one too. But sometimes it's worth having the option, especially if most of the time you're going to use the keyboard anyway. That way you can use the tablet feature if you're going to be just taking notes, especially on the go, or if you're going to, let's say, do a presentation. Especially if the projector is wireless, then you could just carry your laptop as a tablet and go from slide to slide. Could be interesting that way, otherwise you just set it up as a tent. What they call tent mode. Or display mode, sometimes I've seen. So yeah, options are good because we don't always sit at the computer. Sometimes you'll be standing next to it and use your laptop to just play videos, or maybe you're in the kitchen and looking at a recipe or something like that, and then you don't really need a keyboard. So having the option of using the touchscreen for that, not necessarily a bad thing. Might just need to clean the screen afterwards. Usually laptop with touchscreen also have a glossy finish so that they're easier to clean. That does have downsides if, let's say, you're using your computer outside a lot, because then you get more reflections on the screen. The glossy finish makes glare a little bit more prominent. So keep that in mind, especially if you use your laptop outdoors or somewhere that's very brightly lit. Then you probably don't want a touchscreen. And let's see. I think that price dropped yesterday. Roughly $100 off on this laptop over at Staples. And let's see, it's still available online and in stores from what I'm seeing here. And this one's still 800 online only at Best Buy. Got an open box deal online only because that's how Best Buy does it most of the time. And as I've said before, behind me you're seeing essentially which product I'm currently updating on TekAdvisor.ca. And the main reason why I'm doing this here is give you an opportunity to ask any question you might have or anything like that. It's basically my open hours uh, while I do my data updates in the morning. Later today, I'll be publishing the Tech Word Buying newsletter, and the Tech Word Buying newsletter in video format, which will summarize my picks for the weekend in a 2.5 minute format, roughly. So if you need the cliff notes of all that I'm doing right now, just make sure to subscribe to either my YouTube channel or even this Twitch stream where I also publish that. Also put the video up on social media on my Facebook and Twitter accounts. so you can consult it wherever you want. And yeah, I'm basically use the data I'm collecting in the morning on this show and summarize the whole thing into it's not top 10 or anything like that, but it's a list of devices which have caught my eye as being especially worth investigating if you're on the market for a new laptop or tablet or smartphone, or even quite a few accessories. So if you're short of on time and are too shy to ask question here, but you would like a quick suggestion, stay tuned for that. Obviously, you can also subscribe to the newsletter and get the list via email around noon in my time zone, which is mountain time. Try to make it easy to follow my recommendation whenever I can. And yeah, with TekAdvisor, I try to take a data assisted approach to shopping for tech. So it's relatively easy for me to compare device to each other and pinpoint where the best deal likely is in terms of either how many possibilities does it unlock for you for the price, or even how much power do you get for the price is term of bang for the buck, but also durability and how many years it's likely to last you and all that sort of stuff. Those are all things I take into account when determining a device's value. Behind me, you also get pretty much the cliff notes there. It's We've got a quick table comparing the device I'm currently working on to similar devices, and also has a list of programs that might run and how well. And that's one of the things TekAdvisor does too. So if you're in the market for a computer and really want it to be able to run a specific program, you can just head up in my software section, pick your favorite program or the most demanding one, and just a list of recommendation of devices for that specific piece of software. Um, Price came up at Best Buy on this laptop, so it's no longer 1500, it's now 1700. That will probably come back in sale eventually, although I don't see a price drop lately. Let's see. Yeah, they don't say it's liquidation or anything like that, so it will probably be back in on sale eventually. And the price for the open box is still the same, however. So if you really had your mindset on this laptop, you can still get it for $1,400 as an open box. That will require you to buy it online, however. because yeah, that's where Best Buy sell their open box and refurbished and all that stuff. Still, every once in a while, can be um, can be a valid way to save a little bit of money. Price is stable at Best Buy on this one. And let's see, Apple MacBook Pro over at Best Buy. So no change there, still available online and in stores. A little bit more expensive than most Windows laptops, but their build quality is really nice. You have to give that to Apple. So those things are pretty easy to carry. They look good in the meeting room. And they're capable and have pretty good battery life too. So it's a good work laptop, I would say. Can be pretty good for the roaming designer or even graphic artist to a certain point. None of them have touchscreen or have let's say pen capabilities or anything like that, so wouldn't necessarily recommend it for, let's say, digital painting or stuff like that, simply because Apple never started using um, screen digitizers on their laptop. But the upside of that is that, yeah, you get something lighter that lasts a lot longer on batteries as well. So yeah, if you spend most of your day away from your desk and in meeting rooms and stuff like that, I would consider it. Price went up $100 on this laptop this week over at Best Buy. So it's no longer to be at the bottom of the list over here. And still out of stock over at Dell. So Dell's no longer producing this specific model. Yeah, very similar ones, mind you, but just not this one. And now for this device. It's currently out of stock at Best Buy. So I'll save my visitors a little bit of frustration and take it off the table. Also went up in price quite a bit. The Surface Precision mouse is still the same price. Not necessarily a bad mouse if you need something to complement either a laptop you don't want to add a wireless dongle to, or even something you cannot add a dongle to, like a tablet, for instance. It's a way to be a little bit more productive, especially if you're the kind to use your tablet with a keyboard, which in most cases will use Bluetooth for connection. Price also went up on this screen at Best Buy. So it's going to disappear from the list currently on screen. because yeah, it's $200 now, so there's plenty of better offers out there right now. And yeah, Staples still sells it for $155 online and in store, so definitely the place to go right now for this specific device. And Newegg selling it for same price as Best Buy at $200. And Canada Computer still has it for $150, but in their case, they're only selling it in stores. So yeah, Canada Computers have quite a few retail stores, especially in the East. So if you're close to one of their store, might be a good place to pick it up from. And let's see, $130 on Galaxy Tab A. It's not the most capable tablet out there, but when it's priced like this, I kind of like to keep it as an option simply because it's comparable in power to the Amazon Fire HD 8, except it does have access to the Android Play Store right off the bat. There's several guides out there to basically hack your Fire HD8 to gain access to the Android, the Google Play Store. But apparently it breaks security update for the device in most cases. So, and I kind of assume that this kind of jailbreaking is a little bit out of the capacity of most of my visitors, so I don't advertise it too much. But when you have an alternative that is pretty close in spec for only $30 more, that's probably more that's probably closest to the option I would pursue in that case. Tablet might be a little bit smaller than Fire HD 8 because this one is a 7-inch tablet. Memory specs are a little bit lower as well. So yeah, not the perfect solution necessarily, but you have access to more software, especially if you already bought some games or apps from the Google Play Store. Then that just means that you can keep using them. While if you were to do the same thing with the Fire HD 8, for instance, you wouldn't need to buy them again from the Amazon store. So the Logitech webcam is still pretty affordable. The price on this one's stable at Best Buy. Still at the same price I recommended it for 2 weeks ago, if I remember right. I updated my data on battery life on it, so it dropped as a recommendation for the RoadWire. Battery life is apparently not that good, so I did correct that. But it's an interesting tablet, especially since, as I said earlier, with the Microsoft Surface, you have to buy the I'm sorry, still absorbing my morning coffee over here, sadly. But yeah, you don't have to pay for the keyboard separately for this one. So you don't have the same kind of surprise. So you can get something for $800 and less. That is actually fairly capable. It's got an HD screen on it. It runs Windows, so it's a pretty versatile thing. Running Windows 10 with all the features. So yeah, definitely worth considering in my opinion. Because yeah, I'm not even sure you can get an iPad with the with the stylus and the keyboard cover for that price. And yeah, iOS even on an iPad is not as versatile as Windows is. So yeah, if you need something simple, sure, the iPad is a great pick then. If you need more option in your toolkit and stuff like that, and the iPad is not versatile enough for your need, then yeah, the Samsung Galaxy Book is definitely worth looking into. It's not the most powerful Windows tablet out there, but it's very versatile for the price. That's where it excels really, and it's very small to do it too. Speaking of the iPad, here it is. Still waiting for the 2018 model to come in stores over here in Canada. Even on Apple stores, it's not clear which model they're selling. If it's a pre-order or what. So yeah, it's a bit vague on that. But definitely in store, it hasn't happened in stores yet. So we've had pretty aggressive price drops on the iPad in the previous weeks. I think it was especially strong in the something like 3 weeks ago. It was almost $150 off compared to regular price. Now it's mostly back up, and we'll see what happens once the 2018 model comes out. That gaming computer came up in price. It's back at $1,800 over at Best Buy. So there's probably going to be a different gaming computer to pick from this week. And let's see. Yeah, prices are back to normal on that HD Logitech HD Pro. I bought that one a couple years ago. Pretty interesting device, especially if you want a webcam that you won't necessarily be using on the same computer all the time. Because that camera is built for video conferences and it's entirely plug and play. There's no driver involved or anything like that. And its built-in stereo speakers are better than the average webcam to pick up, let's say, an entire room. So if you run up in situations where you sometimes put I would say a laptop on one end of a table and have some kind of video conference going on to talk with someone that's remote. That webcam is a little bit better equipped for that sort of things than whatever is built into your laptop right now. keep it, the whoever's on the other side is a lot more likely to be able to hear what you're saying then. The downside of having it entirely plug and play is that it's going to, all the brains of the device are in the device itself, and they wanted to keep the price relatively affordable, so you end up with limited features. Doesn't have face detection or anything like that to help the autofocus on it. So whenever I would use that one, I definitely sometimes observe that it would go out of focus on, or have trouble focusing on what was actually important. So it's something to keep in mind. But it's really excellent if, let's say, you have multiple computer in your house and you'd want to do group conferencing on different devices at different times. It's really, really excellent for that. iPod Touch 6th generation still hanging on, even though it's becoming rarer and rarer. Sorry, R's are still tough for me in English for some reason. But yeah, it's getting harder to find. And I think, yeah, Walmart is still liquidating their stock on their website for $200. So it's a pretty good pick still for, watching movies. Access to apps is excellent. Fortnite runs on this. And yeah, it's definitely worth considering for, let's say, just if you need some kind of connectivity, access to apps, mobile apps, but you don't necessarily want to pay a mobile plan. With the the iPod Touch, you will be coasting from Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi. But you will be saving quite a bit in the process too. So yeah, instead of lending your work phone or something like that to your kids, that might be a slightly more secure option. If you do that sort of thing, I'm pretty sure your office tech would be more comfortable with you not lending your work phone to your kids. There's a few risks involved with that. And let's see. Currently updating the eBay listing one for this one. And there is an import charge on this one, which they don't do currency conversion on. So I try to include that whenever I can. It's pretty significant this time, so yeah, once everything is factored in, it's available for $215 over there. So you can still get it for cheaper from Walmart. I think Walmart only has the gold version on sale for that liquidation price at this point. But yeah, if the gold color is the problem, because for some reason gold is always the last color to go. You can still always cover it with just a protective case or something like that. There's plenty of cases available for the iPod Touch. And considering it's such an old device at this point, accessories are pretty cheap. 750 on a refurbished system. That's a little bit more than I usually try to aim for. Could still be a worth considering every once in a while. It's got a pretty strong i7 in it, without necessarily being a gaming computer. Sometimes you need something that's able to do quite a bit of work, but you don't necessarily want the gamer aesthetic, or you don't necessarily want to pay for a graphics card either. Then it's a pretty good pick for that. And it'd be pretty easy to custom build a computer to do that sort of thing. But yeah, every once in a while, deals on factory built system are actually not bad. They're not, by design, they're not the most durable devices out there. They don't have all the features or all the upgradability option. But not everybody does upgrade on their system, and even for people who do, some of those computers um, are really not bad. You don't always need all the features or all the options. Factory built systems tend to shine, especially if for any reason you need Wi-Fi on a desktop computer, because they usually come with that feature built in. Sure, it's really easy to just add a USB Wi-Fi connector on the desktop and maybe pay $20, but for $20 you usually get a wireless N system, which is faster than most internet connections still. If you want the AC Wi-Fi, which runs in different band with fewer interferences and stuff like that, then you would probably be paying around $50 for a USB connection. So yeah, you save potentially $50 by going for a factory built desktop computer instead of custom built one, which usually won't have the feature built in, or at least not by default. Obviously, it's always the benefit of the custom built one. You can customize them, and most builders will be happy to help you out with that sort of thing. Um, Even though I mostly list pre-built systems on the site, I have a few which are basically pre-configured builds from builders. They're essentially a recipe they like to follow whenever, or just offer as a starting point to their clientele. And that gives you sort of a stable price point on a device that you can just pick if you're not familiar with building computers yourself. You kind of get the best of both worlds when you do it that way. The benefit of factory built and favorite builds from builders is that usually they come with a fair amount of hardware compatibility testing. In the case of a factory built system, all that testing is mostly for cost reduction. Not cost reduction for you, mind you. It's mostly that the manufacturer wants to reduce their manufacturing cost as much as possible. They also don't want to pay too much on service and repair afterwards, so they try to lower the specs as much as possible while making sure that no problem arises from it. and most of the time that works. Um, that way they have a better return on their investment, essentially. With custom built systems, usually won't run into compatibility issues, really. But it can happen, definitely happened to me. It's not always easy to resolve, so it's usually when a builder recommend a specific build or something like that. Usually it's because the computer is easy to put together. It's usually that the case is easy to work in. And just like the big manufacturers, it's a bunch of parts that they know work well together. And when builders are transparent enough in disclosing the parts they use, I definitely like to recommend those. And that's one of the reasons why the memory express systems are showing quite prominently on my websites and my newsletter most of the time. Because yeah, you get a lot of opportunity to upgrade in the future, but you don't need to really know what you don't need to know about computers so much to order one or even get one customized to your needs. I used to have quite a few NCIX builds as well. I actually liked NCIX website more for that, but sadly they went bankrupt a few months ago, so I see them appear in Google search every once in a while still, but I lost that option. I tried to include a few build from Canada Computers, except the problem with the Canada Computer pre-built system, I don't remember which term exactly they use for them, but essentially their system they built in advance and which are ready to go. Can't really recommend those because they don't disclose what part or they're using in there. So I'm not necessarily sure what you get for the price. I have the specs, but you know, I like to know what a computer is composed of before I recommend them. That's kind of my role here on TekAdvisor.ca. So could include Canada Computers. I contacted them, and when I told them I was a website doing a little bit of curation and recommendation, they just went silent. Um, there's PiperTech as well, but PiperTech doesn't disclose which motherboard they're using. They disclose everything else. So I'll have to go back to them at some point and try to see that. So yeah, always on the lookout for a computer builder which is transparent enough to actually disclose which parts they use on the build they're proposing. And yeah, if they're transparent enough, I'm more than happy to recommend them because um, in my experience, you will get better service from your local computer shop, quote unquote, than from a big retailer like, well, Best Buy or anything like that. It's not going to make a big difference for products like, let's say, laptops, which are pretty much always factory built anyway. But for desktop computers, which are usually custom built in the tower, especially if you need service, I would definitely go for your local builder instead. My experience with Best Buy customer support hasn't been the best, I must admit. So it's kind of the reverse situation that you would expect. You go to what would be considered the expert store if you want to, if you're a newbie, and you would go to the newbie store if you're an expert. Which is an interesting dynamic. I know my parents and my in-laws are don't even know their local computer store either. So a lot of people shop for computers in chains. And yeah, I try to help that clientele as much as I can. Because every once in a while, there's a good deal there. And as thing goes, fewer and fewer computers can be built locally. Which is a bit sad. Because that usually also means that fewer and fewer computers can be repaired at all. And yeah, a computer, any smart device that you cannot repair is going to turn into e-waste pretty quickly. It's just the nature of the beast. For the simple reason that, well, we cannot predict the future. Some new technology will come up at some point. That technology is not available now. And every once in a while, those are game changers enough for their enough of an upgrade that they could not having it could make your computer obsolete. And if you cannot do the upgrade, well, you just have to buy the whole thing again, even though all you would need to change is one part. The other thing that's likely to happen is that, well, your needs might change. You might have a bigger project to tackle, you might have a new game you'd like to run. You know, something that you haven't thought about yet. You could try to invest a little bit more in your computer and basically overinvest now. The only thing is that by overinvesting now, you're paying for hardware you don't need yet, and you buy it at its most expensive point. While if you could change it at the later date to accommodate a changing need, then you would get it much cheaper because the technology would be much older then. So yeah, people don't value upgradability as much nowadays. We tend to go for whatever is smallest, sleekest, as the smallest bezels and stuff like that. But it's at quite a cost, both in terms of how much money we put in it ourselves, but also on the environmental front. So I always try to keep that in mind. Price dropped on this keyboard and mouse set over at Canada Computers quite significantly. It's now 80 bucks instead of 125. Newegg, as you can see right now, has a much better deal on it, but it's a refurbished system. Uh, system. Well, set. And it's factory refurbished, so you can expect they've been cleaned, but not everybody would be comfortable with buying a used keyboard and mouse. Those things can store quite a bit of germs. So I can understand people being a little bit squeamish about those. Right, no price change at Staples on this MacBook Air. But the price has been pretty stable in its current point from what I'm seeing here. One of the best price on in history on this one, I think, seems to be that typical price is around 1150 for it. Right, that open box is still out of stock. Price are still stable on this one at Staples, even though it's not even competing in the top four offers for this specific kit of keyboard and mouse. Yeah, 110 at Newegg still. No price change here at Best Buy. Let's see, things are going to be fairly stable here, it looks. That is the THX certified 2.1 speaker system from Logitech. So probably a better pick if you're a gamer or something like that. For whatever value the THX certified actually carries, which is always debatable. Yeah, if your budget's a little bit limited, sometimes investing in a good pair of headphones is going to deliver better products, better results than speakers. You have to invest a little bit more in those for them to be actually worth it. Okay, problem on the Canon computer website for this device right now. I'll take it off the list for now. And let's see, no change here at Best Buy yet. Although it's definitely not at its costliest price. And price came back up on this webcam over at Best Buy. Why? Going through several inexpensive speaker sets here. With that sort of thing, doesn't really matter where you buy them. Just inexpensive peripherals, you can basically get them from wherever they're the cheapest. And Amazon's actually really competitive on peripheral cost most of the time. Yeah, they're currently leading the way. Best Buy is equaling them this week. And yeah, the Proteus mouse. Great mouse, by the way. That's the one I use when I'm not using a trackball. I kind of alternate between a trackball and a mouse personally. That way, because yeah, I spend a lot of time on the computer. Fortunately or unfortunately, take your pick. But the downside, one of the downsides of that is that, yeah, whenever something stresses my body in a specific way, I will almost always be able to actually notice it quite, well, vividly. So the Proteus mouse, because I have a fairly large hand, I have to claw grip it, and that put a strain on the side portion of my hand quite a bit over time. So even though it's a great mouse, with one of my favorite scroll wheels, every once in a while it starts hurting me to use it a little bit. And I've used different mouse and they all end up hurting me in some way. So I tried a trackball just to try something different. And eventually my hand will hurt with a trackball too. It's just that my trackball has the ball in the middle instead of being one of those that you use with thumb. So I can basically give the sides of my hand a break and use my two middle fingers to use and click with the thumb and pinky finger. And when the middle of my hand starts hurting, I switch to my mouse and vice versa. And for gaming, most of the time I switch to the mouse. But the trackball has been more effective than I thought it would be. I've been enjoying this a lot more than I was expecting. But still, it's not perfect either. Sometimes well, basically anything you do repeatedly for long periods of time is pretty likely to be bad for you physically. So by having options you can switch between, that usually helps. And that's one of the thing I'll always keep in mind with my recommendation on TekAdvisor.ca. It's the ergonomic consideration to different products. Nowadays, finding a laptop you can play games on is really not that difficult. The main drawback you have to playing on a laptop is it's no longer power. They're nearly as powerful as desktop PCs. Um, that's not really the factor. The main factor to me is ergonomy, uh, because yeah, spending more than 30 minutes on a laptop in a row, that's pretty likely to hurt you. It's still better than, let's say, tablets or smartphones, but compared to a desktop computer or even a gaming console, you're going to hurt yourself pretty quick. And sure, when you're young, your body can take it and you barely notice it at first, but I don't know. I've seen so many university students with back problems and stuff like that. I don't think it's such an old man problem anymore. And the thing is, when you're trying to have fun in the virtual world, nothing takes you out of the experience worse than, well, physical pain. It's personally why I didn't play the Wii that much in the end. I had quite a bit of fun with quite a few games. But man, was that painful. Same thing with the Nintendo DS. Yeah, back when I worked in the video game industry and I had to study console games, despite being more of a PC gamer myself. Most of my employers made console games back then. We're starting to see some kind of renaissance on the PC gaming front, especially because the latest generation of gaming consoles was, well, it was really easy to beat for PC. Wasn't always the case, but yeah, gaming, in terms of gaming brawn, yeah, PCs were outmatching consoles pretty heavily in the last generation. They still do. But so that made things a little bit easier. But I think it's mostly the type of games we played. It was easier to. It was more conducive to the free to play model, which became very popular recently. Consoles are starting to catch up to free to plays, but still not to the same degree. There's still the notion of kids playing games on most game consoles, even though most gamers are adults nowadays. It always gets trickier to have, well, the the emotional manipulation that usually comes with free to plays and subjecting children to that. Even though the notion that kids play on game consoles and not on PC is totally invalid. Most kids I've seen playing games these days, I've seen them play on iPads or iPhones and stuff like that. And a fair amount of them are using PCs too. And I've seen a lot of adults playing PS4 and Xbox One. Even the Wii. Sorry. It's the Switch now. Sorry. A little outdated there. Alright, so we've got a price drop. Although not a new price drop on this computer at Staples. Not really a device I would recommend for most people. Usually at that price point, I prefer going for a Chromebook in the $300 range. And sure, the Windows machine is more versatile, it's able to do more tasks, and it's more capable by itself. The versatility of the OS is definitely there, so you've got access to... You could play a few games even on a $300 Windows machine. And yeah, if you've got to open a Word document every once in a while, when, well, it's fairly easy to do on a cheap netbook compared to what it would be on a Chromebook. But the reason why I would recommend going for a Chromebook in the $300 range is simply that the Windows machine is going to be able to do a lot more things, but it's not going to do any of those things well. Even browsing the web, it's going to be it's going to be really slow. If you've got only 2 gigs of RAM in the laptop and it's got a tiny 11-inch screen and all of that, yeah, it's not going to do anything well. It's going to do more things, but none of it will be enjoyable. You will dread using your laptop. In contrast with the Chromebook, it's not going to be able to do as many things. It's more capable than most people give him credit for, to be honest. It's capable of doing quite a few things even when you're offline, especially now that they run Android apps on a pretty regular basis. Uh, but yeah, the thing is, what Chromebook does, it does it well. And yeah, I've been enjoying my Chromebook quite a bit. And there's a lot of things you can do on the web that you probably don't think you do, like working with Word documents, for instance. Yeah, there's plenty of web apps that handle that just fine. Microsoft even has a few of them. So yeah, for simple needs, a Chromebook is built to protect itself from whatever threats are online and stuff like that. And sure, they're not entirely bulletproof, but compared to Windows, they require very little maintenance, and there's very few complications to expect on those compared to a Windows machine. And most people that buy $300 computers are not necessarily the most comfortable with, well, computer maintenance. So overall, in that price point, I'd stay away from Windows. Unless you absolutely need that versatility. Just keep in mind that it's going to be a very unfun experience. And here we've got a few gaming keyboards. Not that you need a gaming keyboard to play games, mind you. But if you play rough, or you like the aesthetics, or you'd like the lighting on your keyboard to match the lighting from your computer case and the lighting on your mouse, then yeah, going for those RGB things could be interesting too. That, or if you like to run light shows on your peripherals, there's always that too. It's not my thing, but to each his own. So let's see, it's almost 10 o'clock. And I'm currently sitting at 40% completion. So things are going pretty well today. I think I managed to speed up the my end of the process quite a bit. I still have 46 listing from either Best Buy or Visions Electronics to cover before I'm done, however. And that's a side effect of me trying to keep the device order a little bit more cohesive. That slows down the process of updating specific retailers' listing, but it stabilized the flow I go through enough that gives me a little bit more time to talk about a specific device, especially if there's some question. And it's easier to follow my process too. But yeah, I'm doing good time today. Mm, Samsung Galaxy S9. Pretty attractive device, especially the camera. But from what I hear, performance-wise, or even in terms of battery life, the the S8, sorry, is really close. Even the camera on the S8 is really no slouch. So if you don't need the latest greatest, you might want to go for the S8 instead of the S9. Because yeah, in terms of raw experience, they're not that different. Microbytes, still selling it online only. Microbytes is a retailer in the Montreal region. Definitely where I was buying my computers back in the day. Kind of wish they had pre-built system on their side I could recommend, but they do not. And I can kind of understand. I'm pretty sure those pre-built system, well, they take a little while to design. You basically have to get your builders and experiment with a few parts, and you know, they're going to try a few builds just by virtue of their day job. But yeah, there's some hardware compatibility testing involved in process and things like that, and it's probably not going to be a task for an experienced builder. But yeah, those guys are usually pretty busy too. So I totally understand company not seeing the value of diverting some of their, well, let's be honest, pretty burdened employees and get them to work on a side project every few. Because usually you would want new builds maybe every 6 months or something like that. So yeah, a lot of local companies don't spend time doing that sort of thing. Very, I'm very happy that Memory Express still does it, and I kind of miss NCIX on that front too. Actually, thought their side did that work a little bit better than even what Memory Express is doing. Hopefully somebody will fill the void. I know that Memory Express is expanding quickly right now, including in BC, which is where NCIX got started in the beginning. So, from what I've been noticing, I think Canada Computers and Memory Express have both been working to fill the gap left by NCIX when they went bankrupt. So we'll have to see what happens with that. Quebec seems to be mostly operating on its whole own set of retailers for that sort of thing. They do have staples called Bureau en Gros over there, and they do have Best Buys. Even though there were very few Best Buys back in the day, there were almost all of them Future Shops. But as we know, Future Shop closed, and not all of them got converted into Best Buy either. So yeah, there's a fair amount of coverage from Best Buy in Quebec, but they had a little bit of a vacuum for a little while. But yeah, most computer building companies are not in there. I think Visions has a few brick and mortar location in Quebec. However, I would need to check. At some point, something I would like to do would be to have a database of where you can find different retailers. Not necessarily go as close to having all their locations listed, but at least you know on a city by city basis. As I said earlier, I usually find that your local computer shop is a little bit better at supplying its customer with technical assistance than the big chains. So I like to recommend those whenever I can. Even though, to be brutally honest, that those business don't pay me anything. But in several cases, they're the best option. Just with the prevalence of laptops nowadays and other device which cannot be built locally, times must be getting tougher and tougher on those kinds of business. And you'd think that, well, someone still needs to do maintenance on those, but even the capability to repair electronics is declining so quickly. I think they're probably, well, they've been clearly they've been surviving on maintenance contracts for a long time at this point. But yeah, there's fewer and fewer things to maintain on those devices nowadays. And would really be a shame to lose those service providers, to be honest. If all you can do when your latest gadget breaks is to bring it back to, let's say, Apple, let their eco robot takes it out and recycle it and buy a new one, or maybe even have some kind of an exchange program, doesn't leave a lot of jobs for people doing maintenance and support. And computer literacy, contrary to the popular notion, is not going up. Younger generations are more comfortable with technology than their parents. That's very, very clear. But they don't necessarily understand how computers work either. And the way a lot of people use technology is just that, yeah, when there's a kink somewhere, they'll just find a way around it and not even talk about it, really. So you end up with weirdly misshapen workflow every once in a while. And I don't have numbers or anything like that, but I feel that the newer generation that basically had a digital upbringing are not very good at identifying problem, getting them solved. They will just adapt around them even when they shouldn't. Because sometimes it's worth adapting, sometimes it's better to fix. And in most cases, you need to do a little bit of both. Because the fix can take time. So in the short term, sometimes adapting is the only option. But if you only go for the short-term solutions, over the long terms, it starts to really hurt you. Interesting. So we've got a price drop on the Alienware R6 at Best Buy, but it's out of stock. You can't buy it online or in store. But there's a price drop. And for some reason, the Alienware desktop apparently won't shop in Quebec. Not sure why it's restricted in Quebec, but apparently it is. Most of the time, I know which law or which kind of process makes that some things not available in Quebec, but for hardware, I really don't know. Because I'm pretty sure they'll translate their manuals and stuff. Or maybe the Alienware were are such specialist systems that basically they don't make enough to spend the extra time packaging a few with French manuals, maybe. That's the most extreme case I could think of, but you would think they would still they couldn't sell them in stores, but you would expect them to be able to sell them online still. A few things have changed since I left, so every once in a while I hear something that does surprise me when it comes to Quebec. So not a big change at Canada Computer there, but it's up to 110 instead of 105. Millennium Micro still out of stock. Ah, I get it. Just quite a few people drop on my site looking for a variety of device. It's because it's noon in both Quebec and Ontario at this point, which is where most of my traffic comes from. So that explains why there's so many hits going on right now. I really wish I could have the newsletter out by now. That would help a lot in that market. It's just that I have so much data to update. I just can't make it in time. So that one's still out of stock. Certified open box version at least. Out of stock for this one too. And I'll take a quick bio break. And I'll leave you guys with a list of recommendation per user archetypes. This is all based on the data I'm currently compiling, so that includes my latest price updates. So I'll take a quick bio break, stretch my legs, maybe let the dogs out, and I'll be right back. Alright, and I'm back. Let's get the rest of those updates done. So yeah, the Huawei MateBook, which took the same approach as Windows did with the Surface tablets and selling the keyboard separately, which sadly makes the device a lot less attractive price-wise than it would in other situations. All right. Just starting a few things to keep an eye on the dogs outside. So let's see, no change in price over at Canada Computer there. 15-inch laptop, yeah, still same price, still online only at Best Buy. Alright, still stable there. And yeah, the what you see behind me is essentially which link I'm currently updating on my site. I'm in the process of completing my data collection in the morning in preparation for my newsletter today, later today, called Tech Word Buying, in which I do a few I build a list and do a few specific recommendations based on what's currently available on the market. Not everything that I recommend is necessarily enjoying a rebate at the moment or anything like that. So I kind of follow what the market values currently are. And believe it or not, some devices are a better deal at regular price than other are on a rebate. So I'm building that list every Friday, send it over by email every I try to do it by noon on my own time zone. So I'm in Alberta, so it's mountain time over here. So it's 2 hour difference from, let's say, Quebec and Ontario. And then after that, I do 2.5 minute summary in video form of the same newsletter. So not necessarily a top 10 or anything like that, but give you a quick overview of what the market is like, who should buy right now, who could use to wait, and stuff like that. And yeah, if you want a quick summary in video format, just stay tuned. I post that video on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter, natively anywhere. So just follow me at any of those locations or all of them. You wouldn't That would make my day. To basically get the cliff notes of the result of what I'm doing currently. And the reason why I'm streaming in the morning like this is mostly to give you an opportunity to ask any question you might have. So, by all means, feel free to hop in a chat and ask any question you might have. Whatever plan you have for the weekend, shopping related or not. And if I can help, it can help you make a decision about anything. If you just need someone to, as either a sounding board or to exchange idea with, especially in terms of technology, you'll by all means just feel free to do it. Because yeah, that's the main reason why I'm here. But yeah, otherwise my Friday schedule is fairly aggressive in terms of publishing plans. Because yeah, I've got that stream in the morning that we're doing right now, the newsletter after that, and there's a page I maintain on the site also that tracks all of this, that help people take a look at what I recommended last and if the recommendations are still holding, or at least how they're doing right now. And basically quick links to video version and where you can follow me and all of that. Then I've got the video version that comes out, and I usually complete that with a little bit of extra data entry in the afternoon. Yeah, always trying to have the most interesting content for my visitors. Right now, something that is very popular is people looking for laptops to play Fortnite. I definitely knew that Fortnite was huge, but it shows up in a big way on my site. And yeah, the gaming trends don't always affect me, but this one's definitely producing results. Well, it's attracting people, let's say. And that's one of the things TekAdvisor does pretty well at this point. I've got a pretty extensive database of different programs. So yeah, there's Fortnite, there's also Microsoft Word, there's also Adobe Photoshop and stuff like that. And TekAdvisor is really good. And no, I'm not talking of me. I'm Guillaume. But I'm feeding data to TekAdvisor.ca, and that's where most of the number crunching is happening. And yeah, it's really good at recommending system for whichever programs you want to be able to play on your new computer. Also has a list of popular modern component based on popular builds capable with capabilities you're looking for. Because yeah, sometimes when you look at a game system requirements, they will often go for fairly old hardware, simply because they say they're by doing that they're telling you, well, this old computer will still be able to run this, um, but it's not always clear. It's not always easy to translate that to a newer system, because newer is not always stronger. And that's something that, yeah, TekAdvisor just computes for you, and you're able to get a list of direct recommendation. And if you're more hands-on, or maybe you are thinking of getting an upgrade for your system or something like that, and would like to know what the modern equivalent to satisfy those tech requirements is, well, TekAdvisor does that translation fairly seamlessly. And yeah, it's part of the slideshow behind me as well. Uh, you've got a quick comparison of the device, the specs, and the pricing history and all of that. You also have a list of programs that will run and how well it will run them. It gives you a quick, at a glance view of everything your next computer might be able to do. That way you kind of know what you can expect later. Or you can basically pick your next computer based on what your specific needs are. Whichever approach you prefer to take. I do have a quiz up as well. I definitely want to upgrade it. I've been wanting to upgrade it for a few months now. I hope I can go back to it, but it's already pretty good at basically check a few boxes of things you want to do on your next purchase. And I'm TekAdvisor is able to give you a list of devices that match your criteria. So you can get customized recommendations online without having to ask question, or if you're shy or anything like that, well, nobody's judging. So not a lot of changes on the tablet market this week. I'll have to see which are going to be my picks this week. And that segment of the market is a little stale right now, so it's been a little trickier to do a tablet selection lately. They're still very good as a media player, especially for video. So anyone that watches YouTube, Twitch, even Netflix or Amazon Live Video. Is it Amazon Live? Amazon Prime, sorry. Um, they're a really good value for that. For gaming, with the amount of depends on your tolerance to free to play. Right now, if I were to shop for a portable gaming device, I would most likely go for the Switch. You have a lot less in-app purchases and advertisement and all that kind of stuff that makes me a little queasy about mobile devices and gaming on mobile devices especially. There's also all the convertible laptops. It's just that, yeah, they make very bulky, low endurance, and in lots of cases, version of a tablet. So I mostly consider them as a laptop, and every once in a while you can flip them over. But so far, from every research I've heard, very few people use convertible laptop as tablets. It's not a common thing. So yeah, tablets was some kind of an experiment for a while, then it kind of fell flat. But I know my parents still consider them quite highly, and quite a few people of their generation too. They're a great way to stay entertained while on the go. Wouldn't be necessarily my first pick for productivity most cases. And if you feel that you need a tablet for your sorry, a keyboard for your tablet, usually it brings you in a price where tablets are just not competitive. So yeah, most cases, tablets have been having issues for the last 3 years or so. There were a very big trend for a while, and it kind of fell flat. Very few people managed to get any kind of profit with tablets, and most tablets that were sold during those early years fell into disuse very, very quickly. So yeah, most tablets turn into a waste really quick, which is always unfortunate. I know things are a little bit more stable on the mobile device side of things, so especially smartphones. Technology has been relatively stale lately on that front, and that's a good thing because you're buying a smartphone nowadays, it doesn't become obsolete as fast. Those things used to barely last a year. So now you can expect them to last quite a bit longer. That's obviously good for your wallet too. I mean, those things are often as expensive, if not more expensive, than a laptop. Buying a new one every year was a little bit excessive for most people, at least. Looks like I'm almost done with my essential updates this morning. I'll try to complete the full list by the end of the day, but my workflow is designed so that I'm most likely to spot changes in market early in the list than at the end. So if I have to cut my updates short, I'm unlikely to encounter surprises. This one is back in stock at Staples. Not at a very attractive price. HP sells it for cheaper right now. And if you prefer to buy locally, that's a good option to have. Maybe you can go and give their price match guarantee a try. Although I don't remember if Staple has one. I'm assuming they have one. So yeah, I'll just finish this quickly. And then I'll go and start publishing my newsletter, my how would I say, favored archetype of the day and stuff like that. I have 7 essential links remaining. Obviously, it's going to take a little more than 7 updates to do the whole thing because I go from devices to devices instead of from link to link. I've managed to reach, I'm currently at 59%, so that's pretty good. Lots of out of stock and back order on that 17-inch HP model. Always pretty popular. It's a laptop I tend to recommend for people with how would I say, which are tired of squinting at small screens. Because it's got a 17-inch screen, which is pretty big to start up with, and that screen is relatively low res. So as a result, the things are going to naturally appear larger right off the bat on the screen like that. Computer is really not very strong to start with, but for some people it's worth considering. Especially if you're suffering from ocular device after using computer or something like that. Price drop on the Galaxy A5 if you prefer to buy it straight from Samsung. These days, usually for people looking for something inexpensive in terms of smartphones, I tend to hesitate between the A5, which is often on sale at $400, like it is right now from Samsung and now Staples as well, and the Galaxy S6. Obviously, the S6 is much older, except the A5 is built to be an inexpensive phone right now. The S6 was built to be a flagship phone back in the day. So it was built with what was at the time cutting edge processor. It had the best camera of its generation too. So you end up with either what is cheap today or what was very expensive back in the day, and both of them are selling for roughly the same price currently. And yeah, for $40 extra, the S6 is a pretty compelling option. The main reason you would pick the A5 over the S6 is because the S6 is so old right now, it's very unlikely to receive much upgrades in the future, if at all. So if you use a lot of apps and stuff like that, you're more likely to fall by the wayside with the S6. However, the S6 is a more powerful smartphone. Even by today's standards, it's running an older version of Android. Um, but yeah, as a phone or a camera, it's a better option. If you're more into apps and stuff like that and want to stay compatible for a little longer, the A5 then is your better option. And both of them for roughly $400. All right. Pretty sure something's preventing me from reaching the last 7 links. There's a few things in the algorithm that can do that. So I'm pretty sure everything is done for me in terms of update this morning. I have to go prepare the newsletter. So I'll leave you guys right now. Follow me on social media, either Facebook, Twitter, or even YouTube and Twitch for further update in the futures. That would help me a lot. I would appreciate it immensely. And stay tuned for the newsletter later today, as well as the video version of Tech Word Buying. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining me today, and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.